Less than 24 hours into quitting my job, and I am already making mistakes. Was this a bad decision? I'm going to tell you the 5 mistakes that I made in the first 24 hours after quitting my job, as well as a few mistakes I didn't make. But first, we're going to celebrate my freedom with a cannoli. This is from LA Bakery. It's my favorite cannoli in the entire world. And this isn't a plug, it's not sponsored. I just love these cannolis so much. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to celebrate ever so quickly here. Oh, man, that's good. Every single bite of that cannoli has the best, most rich filling. It is so delicious. I could eat a billion of those and never get tired. Now, back to the video and what we're actually talking about here today, which is the 5 mistakes that I made in the first 24 hours after leaving my job. As a father of 3, I can't make a lot of mistakes. And when I do, I have to learn from them and adjust right away. Otherwise, this whole entire venture of trying to become a published, successful author is going to fail. And it's going to fail fast. So I got to learn, and I got to learn quickly. What is the first mistake? Mistake number 1 is simply, I thought that everything would feel different, that the world would feel different. And though there is a weight lifted off of my shoulders, I don't have Slack messages or Teams messages going off all the time. There's not that incessant need to check my corporate email. It's not really that different than what it was before, other than just not having that job. I still have all the family commitments. I still have to go get the oil changed in my truck. I had to do that in the first 24 hours because life still happens. It's a new beginning, but there's still all these old obligations that are there and they don't go away. And I thought that the world would be like roses right away, and it's nice. It feels good, but it's mostly just a relief of the stress that was there. And I expected it to feel a lot bigger of a decision, a lot bigger of a choice. And it just didn't feel like that. And so it was kind of a letdown. And I mean, that's a mistake that I made, is thinking that the world would have changed, and it didn't. The second mistake that I made was thinking that people would care that I was leaving my job. I went around my office to all the people that were acquaintances and friends, I thought were friends, and I said my goodbyes. I said like, hey, I'm quitting my job today. I just wanted to say goodbye. It's been a pleasure working with you. And most of them looked at me like, why are you talking to me? Why are you telling me this? So much so that I even had people tell me, oh, you're making a mistake, dude. Like, you need to not do this. And I just thought people would care. I'm kind of a social person. I talk to people, and I thought they'd care, and they don't. And that's a mistake. Like, you need to recognize doing this that no one cares other than you and your family. Like, most people are like, okay, go on, ruin your life yourself. And your family's like, oh my God, this is a huge deal. But everyone else, they don't care. The third mistake I made was planning to do too much. I thought that having quit my job, I'm going to have all this time. I'm going to record some videos. I'm going to do some revisions. I'm going to go find an editor. I'm going to write a Substack post. I'm going to go XYZ, back and forth. And I did not have that much time. After I turned in all of my equipment at my job and said my goodbyes and got home, it was 2 p.m. and I was only going to work until 5 because that's when my family gets home. So 3 hours just isn't a whole lot of time to do a whole lot, especially on that first initial quitting your job. Now today I can get more done, but I thought that I'd have a whole lot more time, and I planned on doing a whole lot more in that first 24 hours. And I got like a TikTok post made. I uploaded the same short to YouTube, and that was about it. That's all I had time for. And that can be really discouraging, especially when every second matters and you need to be pushing forward as hard as you can. But that leads to mistake number 4, which is the opposite of pushing forward, which is you need to make sure that you have time for self-care. I did not eat breakfast or lunch in the first 24 hours after quitting my job. That was a huge mistake. You need to make sure that you take care of yourself. You need to make sure that you put time into you and your mental health and your physical health, because as soon as you end at the end of the day, if you're working from home because you're self-employed, it's not going to feel a whole lot different than working during the day. So you need to make sure there's those clear boundaries of self-care. And I didn't take self-care into it at all. I made that mistake, and I won't make that mistake again. And the fifth mistake I made was not getting enough sleep. I did not sleep well before I quit my job, and this was a huge mistake. I got 2.5 hours of sleep. The anxiety after sending all those emails, it just kept me up, and I couldn't go to bed, and I still had to wake up and do all the stuff. I had to go turn in all the equipment that I had. On 2.5 hours of sleep, that's potentially dangerous. You need to be well rested, and I wasn't. I was not well rested one bit, which could have contributed to a lot of the other things that I made mistakes on. But the biggest one in that of not getting enough sleep was not doing the quality control in the videos and the posts that I am usually trying to do, which led to an interesting interaction with a comment that said, hey, you used the wrong word. I didn't use the wrong word. I checked the sticky note, I checked the audio, I used plotting, but I didn't check the automated captioning to make sure that that word was correct, and it came out plotting, and I got called out for this. And this is like day one, and people are gonna be like, oh, he can't even spell. I'm not gonna read his writing. Oh, please. That's not what's happening. I was just really tired, and I made a mistake. The mistake is you need to be well rested, and that's just a general like life thing. You need to make sure you get good sleep or you cannot perform. Those are the 5 mistakes that I made in the first 24 hours, but I made some really good choices ahead of time that kept me from making bad mistakes. And the first one is we planned for this. We knew that I was going to leave my job at some point, and so we saved money for the last 3 years to make sure that we had enough of a runway to give me enough time to make this happen. That's not a mistake we made. I did not just randomly quit my job one day. It was accelerated by things that were going on at the company, but ultimately we planned for me to leave my job. The second thing that I did not make a mistake on is I looked at the process of quitting my job. I made sure that I didn't have to give a notice period. I live in Nevada. We're a right-to-work state. I could just leave my job without notice. But in other states, you might not be able to do that. So you need to check your contracts. I also went through and made sure that I could access all of my retirement accounts and everything else once I left. I made sure that I could do everything smartly, intelligently. So that once I left, I'm not sitting there wondering, wait, how do I get this money back? Or how do I do this thing? Nope, I looked at the process. I said, okay, the company wants me to quit my job this way. I'm going to fill out all the forms so that I leave my job this way. That way I'm not sitting there getting harassed after the fact. Also, we planned to wait for me to quit my job when we were on my wife's insurance. Instead of just quitting and then going through the process of having to do proof of loss of coverage, we just said, okay, well, we're going to be on your plan starting July 1st, so we're going to leave after that. I'm going to leave my job after that. Those are some of the things that I didn't get wrong. Those are some of the things that I made sure ahead of time that I knew I was doing correctly. Of course, I'm going to still make mistakes. I'm a human being. But at least the 5 mistakes that I made weren't so horrible that it's going to cost me this entire career. I can recover from that. And I didn't make mistakes. They're going to cost me the entire adventure to begin with. I hope that you will like and subscribe and follow me as I go through this journey of becoming a full-time writer. It's going to be crazy.